Hello friends! So, Crimson Desert is finally out. The big single-player swing after Black Desert Online from Pearl Abyss. And yeah, the launch has been pretty messy. On one hand, it came out strong. Steam charts showed more than 200,000 players on day one, which is honestly quite impressive for a studio mostly known for MMOs, which made it the third most played game on Steam at that time. But when the reviews started to come in, they were quite mixed. Right now the game sits at mostly positive, but people really can't seem to agree on what it is. Some people are calling it a masterpiece because of the visuals, the level of details and the combat. Others are very frustrated by the weak story, the overload of systems in the game and especially the controls. And the latter one seems to be the real breaking point here. They were criticized so heavily at launch that Pearl Abyss's stock took a huge hit, and the game opened up to a much rougher reception before the reviews started improving. Honestly, this just feels like one of those games that clearly isn't for everyone. And sure, developers can say, oh, you just need more time to get used to it, but that kind of onboarding friction is really hard to justify in an almost $100 premium game. You don't have to please everyone, but when basic interactions like talking to NPCs already feel awkward, that's a problem. For a team with so much MMO experience, I expected a better first impressions than this. Still, credit where it's due. Pearl Abyss proved that they can make a premium scale single player game and get a lot of people interested. Now the big question is whether they can actually respond to the feedback and keep enough players coming back for more. Ubisoft's restructuring train keeps rolling, and this time it's Red Store Entertainment getting hit. According to Insider Gaming, the company has told the studio to stop game development, which led to 105 people getting laid off. And that's a big one. Red Storm has a lot of history behind it. It was founded in 1996 by Tom Clancy himself, helped shape franchises like Rainbow Six and Ghost Recon, and was acquired by Ubisoft back in 2000. But over time those franchises kind of moved away from the studio's original role. Rainbow Six Siege is still a major Ubisoft pillar, but Red Storm isn't leading it. Ghost Recon hasn't had a new mainline entry in ages, and more recently Red Storm had become much more tied to VR, which, let's be honest, is not exactly the best place to be right now. So from Ubisoft's perspective, they probably looked at the studio and saw no obvious long-term fit. Still, they could have at least tried to refocus the team, put them on something new, rebuild around a different kind of project. But instead, it's another shutdown, another round of cuts, and another reminder that no studio is really safe right now, especially if it's attached to something with uncertain commercial potential. At this point, you do have to wonder how many studios Ubisoft is going to cut before leadership stops acting like the studios are the problem. And now let's talk about Remedy for a second. It looks like FBC Firebreak has basically reached the end of the road. Well, sort of. After the open house update on Steam, Remedy confirmed it has no plans to make more content for the game. It will stay online, and they say they've done some backend work needed to keep it playable for years, even with lower player counts. And they're also permanently lowering the price and adding a friends pass so owners can invite someone else to play. But in terms of actual future support, that seems to be done. And honestly, it's not surprising. The game had a rough time from the start, and I think there are two big reasons for that. First, the format just didn't line up with what people wanted. Remedy tried to pull in fans of Control, but Firebreak is a very different kind of game. I think maybe too different for that audience to naturally carry over. And second, the game kept changing. Core loops, progression, weapon balance, that's not small stuff. When that much shifts around, it gets hard for players to settle in and commit. So yeah, this feels like Remedy slowly stepping away. To be fair though, this was their first real attempt at a multiplayer live service title, which is one of the hardest spaces in the industry to crack. And when a game launches without a strong momentum, gets mixed reception and struggles to find the audience, this kind of ending is usually where things go. Also, quick thing, if you don't know who I am, my name is Alex, I'm a game producer and I'm here to help you get caught up on everything that's going on in the video game industry. While some people in the industry were panicking after Project Genie was revealed, Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick doesn't seem to be worried at all. In a recent interview with the game business, he basically laughed off at the idea that AI could generate a critically acclaimed game like GTA at the press of a button. And I think he's right, at least for now. He's not dismissing AI entirely. He agrees it can help with things like asset creation, ideation, and development support, but the idea that it can just make a great game on its own, he clearly doesn't buy it. And I think most people would agree with that. We're nowhere near that point right now, and maybe we never will be. That's why the reaction to Genie always felt a little overblown to me. It's an interesting demo, sure, a fun concept, but that doesn't mean it's about to replace actual game development. What this really shows, again, is that the industry is trying to split AI into two lanes. One lane is practical tools, support, coding help, ideation, asset generation. Most companies are fine with that. The other lane is creative, actually making the art, the vision, the thing people emotionally connect with. That's where everyone draws the line. So unless the whole AI bubble collapses, this is probably just the new normal. AI accepted as a tool, but not as the author. Now, CD Projekt RED has so many projects in the pipeline right now that it's easy to forget they're also working on a completely new IP, Project Hadar. And according to the company's latest financial report, that project has now entered the conceptual phase. This is the same original IP CDPR first mentioned back in 2022, a third one among all the Witcher and Cyberpunk projects, and it has apparently been moving forward quietly with a small team ever since. The bad news is that's basically all we know. There is still no real info about what the game is, what kind of world it will be, or when we might hear something more. And considering CDPR's current priorities, I wouldn't expect any major updates anytime soon. Still, it's exciting. A brand new IP from the studio behind The Witcher and Cyberpunk definitely has potential. I mean, assuming they can bring the same level of world building, ambition and polish, of course. Crystal Dynamics says it's fully committed to Tomb Raider. At the same time, the studio just went through its fourth major round of layoffs in the last year. IGN recently reported that 20 employees were affected at the time across development and central operations teams. The company framed it as a part of aligning the team with long-term studio goals as projects move into new phases, which is the usual corporate wording, of course. But let's be real, saying you're fully committed to a franchise while repeatedly cutting stuff working around it, it is not exactly a reassuring look. And the bigger pattern here is hard to ignore. These layoffs have kept happening since Crystal Dynamics was acquired by Embracer. On paper, 20 roles might not sound catastrophic by itself, but 4 rounds of layoffs in a single year, that's a lot. Especially for a studio trying to handle something as important as Tomb Raider, with big expectations and multiple projects on the line. That kind of instability usually creates delays, pressure, and all sorts of production headaches. So even if the commitment is real, it's hard not to wonder what shape that commitment is actually in behind the scenes. And to wrap things up, Valve has made one of those changes that sound small on paper, but for Counter-Strike players, it's huge. And I have one word: reloading. In a recent Counter-Strike 2 update called Guns, Guides and Games, Valve changed how reloading works so that any ammo left in the current magazine is now discarded, which means if you reload early, you lose those bullets. Before, like in most shooters, the leftover ammo was basically preserved in your reserve, and not anymore. Valve says the idea is to make reloading feel more high stakes. And sure, from a design standpoint, you can understand the logic, but the community went absolutely livid. A lot of players immediately pushed back and some even review bombed the game, asking Valve to revert the changes and bring back the old system everyone has been used to for years. So far though, Valve doesn't seem to be interested in reversing the course, which means players are probably just going to have to adapt. And for everyone else, it's another reminder that no mechanic is sacred in modern live service games. Not even something as fundamental as how reloading works in one of the biggest shooters ever made. And that's all I have for you today, guys. Let me know in the comments down below what do you think about Crimson Desert, what do you think about all those layoffs we've talked about, and what do you think about Valve's change to reloading. As usual, if you want to know more, all links are down below. And of course, clicking the like button helps this channel a lot and I personally highly appreciate it. Thank you for making it this far. And with that, Alex is signing off for today. Cheers!